Let's remove the shame and stigma of having too many hobbies. While I come from this from an ADHD point of view, where often I will just really get into a new thing, trying to chase that dopamine rush, this applies for anyone who has small niche hobbies, who feels like they might just get in the way a little bit. Maybe you only have one or two things and you feel like it's not productive or it's not related or whatever. Let's remove that stigma. It's about acknowledging that we are all creative and inquisitive, that we want to be able to go out and explore all these brand new things. It doesn't matter what exactly it is, whether it's creative or physical. Maybe you want to push yourself to the next limit. I don't know. Self-acceptance about these hobbies and the fact that you might be struggling through them or that you feel really bad about even having them, that kind of self-acceptance and getting through those anxieties can help with things like impulse buying, preventing yourself from doing that because you're going from a stage of being fearful that you're not going to be able to continue your hobby to prioritizing good quality stuff. I have stopped buying so much like little stuff because now that I accept that these are just nice hobbies to have and they can help me, they can just be something that I'm into, I impulse buy less. I prioritize high value, high quality items, hopefully on sale, rather than just like mass buying miniatures like I used to. But yes, these are my ways of keeping hobbies, being able to just enjoy them and keeping them separate from my professional practice. I am a professional artist. You may have a different job with hobbies related to it, like maybe you're an engineer who enjoys tinkering around with machines. This still can apply to you. Just replace art with machine. Tip 1 that I like to prioritize. Allow yourself to keep your work and your hobbies pretty strictly separate. While you should draw inspiration from the things that you do with your hobbies, maybe you get additional knowledge that you might use in your work later, try and keep them as separate as possible. Hobbies are there to be almost meditative. It's meant to be something separate that you can step outside of your usual day job and have it as a way to have a mental break from everything, from your life, from your job. When I make a cute little diorama, it's still artistic, but I wouldn't classify it under my professional practice. I wouldn't even classify it under the same workflow, because while it is creative, it is a genuine work of art that I have created, it's a different process with a different purposeful outcome. Tip 2. This is mostly applicable if you have a workspace to work in. I try and keep separate work areas for separate hobbies, jobs, creative pursuits. I'm lucky enough to be able to do that in this area. I have a desk here. I'll show you a little video of that. I do this with 3D printing. I do this for modeling. I have this desk set up mostly so that I can paint while having other people around me. It's a very social space. And I also have the 3D printer out here. I have another printer out here, a little normal one. It's explicitly for this modeling activity. I want to get into the workflow, into the mindset of doing these things, and being at this desk helps me. I'm not sure if this is an ADHD thing or just a regular workflow thing, but I'm lucky enough to be able to have multiple little workspaces. Now, obviously, not everyone can do this. I'm never going to assume that. Maybe you have one desk in a room that you share with someone. Maybe you're struggling that way. I would say one of the best ways to do that is to have whatever hobbies you may enjoy or whatever in a box, so that when you're doing things at your desk and you've been working on an assignment all day, instead of going straight into a hobby that's already on the desk that you've been looking at all day and wanting to do all day, you instead keep it in a box or some type of container, just somewhere different. Then when you're done with the hard work or whatever other job, or maybe a different hobby, you then bring out that box, you put it on the table, it feels nice and fresh, you can get into a similar mindset. It's also a good way to keep everything in storage. Also, if you do it with the box method, you could just do it in any surface in your house, maybe even your backyard. You take out some little paints, maybe your little Mechanos, your little Legos, and go have fun in the backyard. That actually sounds like something I really want to do now. Tip 3. Now, this one applies more to artistic or creative professionals, but the vibe is something that, any professional or any person could really take from it. And that is to let the influence of your hobbies on other parts of your life or other, your work, to be subtle. There is a tendency to lean on hobbies as, almost becoming a side hustle. This isn't about a side hustle. This is something that is just purely enjoyment. Separate those things. Don't have a direct one-to-one correlation with the things that you're doing with your hobbies and the things that you might be doing to, say, sell online or through your work or however it may be. So this isn't a hard or fast tip or rule. This is just a process that you can go through where you're constantly just checking yourself and checking your mental health and seeing about how these hobbies are affecting you and how they're influencing how you do things. I am mildly guilty of this myself when I make my little dioramas. It's a completely different practice, like artistically, from when I'm doing a big oil canvas painting for a client or something. It's such a different thing, and I kind of always want to go in and get the easy inspiration, the easy way of going through, and it affects my work negatively. If it doesn't affect your work negatively, go ahead, just keep doing that, I don't mind. So when I have one that does influence the other, I do try and keep it pretty subtle. So let's say I have painted a miniature that I just really like the color palette of. I'll keep the color palette as opposed to the whole composition of the model. Maybe I'll change around how the colours are used or their balance or whatnot, but I often find that those subtler ways of getting inspiration are better. Sometimes I use painting miniatures as a way to warm up for the day. So I'll paint just a few things, maybe just do some bases or something, and then go ahead and go into my creative practice. Sometimes it doesn't even relate one-to-one at all. It's just a good way to get the creative arts flowing and to warm my hands up literally. I also use the skills I acquire doing this kind of thing for creative pursuits. It's a bit more abstract, so a good example is that from learning how to 3D print miniatures for my friends and my family, I have discovered more and more about 3D modeling and the whole process that way. And from there, I've been able to learn how to make printing plates for letterpresses. And now I'm making my own letterpressed things, which I'm totally going to make a video about. It's very fun, a very good way to kind of jump that gap. That's what I mean, right? Where it's not one-to-one. I'm not doing a miniature and then putting a miniature in a gallery. I am painting miniatures and learning about them and learning those processes and then applying those skills for things later. But yeah, those are my main tips. With these tips, I really hope that you can accept that you have a lot of hobbies. I have an immense amount. The things that I have shown you here today with these videos barely even scratches the surface. I don't guilt myself about it. I do make sure I prioritize certain things, so I don't hoard things that I maybe won't eventually use. I'll give them to another hobbyist or an op shop or something else. I will make sure that if I'm not using it and I make the executive decision to be smart about my time, that someone else can benefit. And that's maybe what you need to do. Maybe you need to declutter, or maybe you need to prioritize what you do so you can still have all these hobbies and have all these interests and manage to keep the stuff you care about. Removing the stigma of having these multiple interests from an ADHD perspective really has reduced my impulse buying. I was awful at it. It was really, really bad. And now with my prioritization of higher quality goods, it's still an impulse buy every now and then, but it's not as often. And when I do it, it feels better. It feels like, oh, this isn't just something that I'm going to throw away after a while. This is like, a paintbrush I'm going to use for a while. But yes, I hope that you can look at your hobbies, look at what you do, reflect, and utilize them to the best of your ability.